Okay, so oops. Don't want that. All right. Let's just delete this. Managed to just delete for all members. Okay, let's try again then. All right, so welcome. Sally again and Kim. So yeah, I think let's just dive into today's teaching. We'll have a look at the quote for today and the teaching on that, and then we'll go into meditation. So that's going to be our kind of half an hour, 40 minutes, and then we'll have a little time for sharing, and we'll go deep into the lesson. So that's the format. So I'm just going to share my screen with you quickly, so if one of you can read the quote. Probably Sally. I think Kim's on the move, so is that big enough? Can you see that? It's quite small writing because it's quite a long quote.
All right, we'll give it a go. You are goodness and mercy and compassion and understanding. You are peace, joy, and light. You are forgiveness and patience, strength and courage, a helper in time of need, a comforter in time of sorrow, a healer in time of injury, a teacher of confusion. You are the deepest wisdom and the highest truth, the greatest peace and the grandest love. You are these things, and in moments of your life, you have known yourself to be these things. Choose now to know yourself as these things always.
So it's a quote by a guy called Neale Donald Walsch, who wrote the Conversations with God books. I don't know if you've read them. It was a series of 6. I think I read the first 3. He was interestingly homeless for about 9 months before he was inspired to write the first book in the series. Obviously, it was necessary for him to go through that experience to write it, and shows it because it's a wonderful reminder of the gifts of God, which is what today's quote's about. The gifts, great gifts that forgiveness or letting go brings with it, which is the theme of today's lesson. So it also makes our qualities, the qualities of our true nature and how we might experience and express them in our lives quite practical, which again echoes what the workbook lesson says about not waiting to claim the gifts of God or perfect love, but accepting them into your awareness now by denying the illusions that deny them. So forgiveness or letting go is all about denying the denial of truth. If you deny the denial of truth, then you accept the truth back and it's yours. And then peace is an experience that comes when we rest in that truth, our true beingness. And it's typically not associated with taking action of any kind. It's just a sense of peace. You had those sort of very peaceful, deeply peaceful experiences, and there's no desire really to act, is there? It's just I'm just sitting in the peaceful state, observing what's going on. So it's what I call foundational happiness, the result of what some philosophers call the ground of being. The Apostle Paul called the peace of God, which surpasses all understanding. There's been many names for it. It's a sense of a transcendent state of mind that's just deeply peaceful, and in which no action. You're not really motivated to act. In fact, you're much more likely just to want to sit and be still and quiet. So the easiest way to experience it is to meditate for an extended period of time in a way that quiets the mind. So by the end of the meditation, you're not thinking of much at all. Without this background peace, happiness is impossible. With it, happiness becomes inevitable and your natural state, as this quote expresses very well. So if you can read that again, Sally. Happiness is a butterfly.
Happiness is a butterfly which, when pursued, is always just beyond your grasp, but which, if you sit down quietly, may come and alight on you. The key to prosperity and happiness. That sounds nice.
It's an old book, actually, which if you click on that link, you can read, you can download. I think it was 1885 or something. It was published in with some some of this kind of ancient wisdom, but it was an American book, so context of how to I think become happier, wealthier, the start really of the New Age movement. That book was part of that. But some great truth there. Happiness is a butterfly. If you just sit down and allow it to come, then it can alight on you. And if you constantly pursuing it, then it doesn't. Interestingly, that the pursuit of happiness is actually in the Declaration of Independence. We're talking about the USA. It's in the Declaration of Independence, which is the founding document of that nation. Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, rather than happiness. Isn't that interesting? And then you look at the way it's played out over a few hundred years since that was written, and really that culture is all about pursuit, pursuing, seeking, striving, craving, and never actually finding it. So one wonders if Thomas Jefferson, who wrote it, if he'd had a different state of mind, perhaps it would have influenced the whole nation differently. I suspect not, because no one reads these documents anyway. But it's interesting from an energetic point of view. There's a founding statement for the nation, and then that's what they end up doing, pursuing happiness, and not actually ever finding it. So then you go, well, where does joy? There's this happiness, foundational happiness that may come if you just sit quietly. So where does joy fit into the picture? If we're looking at peace and we're looking at joy, happiness, Eckhart Tolle describes joy as this vibrantly alive peace, which I thought was quite a nice description of it. A more vital and active expression of the same underlying beingness or foundational happiness that gives rise to peace. So you have, at the very, foundation, just this I'm okay, I'm at peace. That's foundational happiness, which gives rise to a sense of peace that doesn't require anything to happen for you to experience peace. It's just because of what you really are. And then joy can just be an enhancement on that. It can be like that peace taken to another level, vibrantly alive peace, more vital and active expression. So perhaps more energized, more active than peace. But actually, interestingly, on the scale of consciousness, let's just go there quickly. It's slightly lower than joy. Right. Okay. I don't know why it does this from time to time. Never mind. We'll just scroll down there. So you see here on the scale of the map of consciousness, joy is 540, just below the level of peace. So according to David Hawkins, peace is actually higher, but joy would be probably a little bit more active, so more vital and alive. So there's more of a sense of, okay, I'm active. I want to share it. I want to express it. We associate joy often with actions like, just doing something spontaneously, playing, dancing, quite an active kind of energy. It's difficult when you're really feeling joyful to just sit still. So I think Eckhart Tolle's description is quite accurate and valid. Vibrantly alive peace, or vital and active expression of the same underlying beingness or foundational happiness that gives rise to peace. But if you become too attached to this experience, then your joy can become tainted by the mind's desire for more joy. So you got to watch it. I want more joy. I want, more of whatever, and that desire then means that you don't have it. Peace and joy are not something you can want more of. They are states of mind, states of being that are optimal in themselves. So you start craving more, then that takes you out of that state, and again you're back in the ego's thought system, which is always focusing on lack and wanting more. So if you want more joy, it often paradoxically blocks joy from flowing through you and leads to undesirable craving for so-called spiritually high experience. We talked about this before in one of our other sessions. So someone like Ram Dass was looking, and by his own admission was looking for the high, and he used various methods, like chemicals was one, drugs, but others. So if you always seeking the high, whatever technique you use, whether that's a drug or another meditation technique or breathing, spiritually you're actually out of alignment, because you're seeking and you're not just experiencing the beingness that you are. So that's just something to be aware of. Don't desire more peace or more joy, because that actually sabotages the peace and joy that you have already, and therefore that you could be experiencing moment by moment. So then the Buddha noticed 2,500 years ago that a desire or craving, any desire or craving, even if it's for something like joy, you go, well, or more enlightenment, more peace, more love, more joy, causes suffering, because it sets up an expectation that will inevitably lead to disappointment, and then more craving for the desired, in this case, joyful state. An insight that's become the second noble truth of Buddhism. So I'm seeking, and as long as I'm seeking, I'm saying I don't have it. That's the subtle message you're giving to the mind. So that puts you in a state of lack, of dissatisfaction, not having enough, which he called dukkha. Dissatisfaction, unsatisfactory kind of state of mind, which takes you away from your true self and love, peace, joy, everything that's truly valuable. So how does one then stay connected to the deep peace that is foundational happiness without craving, while experiencing a heightened state of joy in the doing of your daily activities? And the answer in 4 words is let go and flow. So it comes back to letting go. Can you let go of whatever is blocking your awareness of happiness, this foundational happiness or peace? Because that restores your mind to that base state, allows you to stay in that state. And if your mind's in that state, that's your foundation then for conscious action, for flowing action. So if your mind is temporarily disturbed by anything, then letting go restores your foundational happiness. And you find, okay, I'm okay. It's all right. I don't have to get upset here. Now you've got an excellent foundation from which you can then flow in a peaceful and joyful manner. If you can't let go, then and you can't be foundationally happy, then forget having joy. It's not possible. So from the state of calm centeredness, foundational happiness, a deep peace, you can then act in a way that is not self-seeking. So you're not seeking pleasure or avoiding pain, which is what the ego is always preoccupied with, seeking pleasure somewhere outside of itself to give it an experience it wants, to enhance its self-image, or avoiding pain, which it sees as bad, and it's trying to avoid that always. And if you can avoid that, then the situation requires you to act. Any situation you're in, you may find joy arising spontaneously when you act in this flowing way. But if not, you remain fundamentally happy. So even if it's a challenging situation, you can find joy in responding, in action. I've experienced this. You're actually quite enjoying the process of responding in a highly functional, effective way, and you kind of come alive in those moments. So there's no room for extraneous thinking. You can only just do exactly what you're doing now in those situations. So it brings you into the present moment, which is why it feels good. And in the present moment, then this foundational happiness, peace, and even joy are possible. But if you're not in the present moment, none of that's possible. And so Eckhart Tolle has this quite a nice conception of this relationship between happiness, peace, and joy. He puts it in a 3-level system, starting with acceptance, which is the level of peace or foundational happiness. So that's at your base. And if you can't accept, then you're in dysfunction. So acceptance is I'm not resisting whatever's happening. And you resist it when you judge it and you say this shouldn't be happening, and why is this happening to me? And that creates suffering for you and others. So acceptance is foundational to joy and also to happiness. Another word for acceptance is forgiveness or letting go. When you truly let go, then you can experience this joy. And so you've accepted this foundational joy, foundational happiness, peace, and joy into your mind when you let go. So acceptance is synonymous with letting go. Just a synonym for it. So acceptance is the level of peace or foundational happiness. Okay, I'm not overjoyed, I'm not feeling like vitally alive necessarily, but I'm quite peaceful. So that's a minimum. To not be dysfunctional, that's a minimum level, which may be the best you can do in the situation. That's okay, because at least you're not creating any suffering. You're not creating profound, enormous, huge, joyful experience for yourself, but you're not suffering, which is pretty good compared with how the ego has operated in the past. And then it progresses from acceptance. The next level up in this sort of 3-tier model is enjoyment, which is to be joyfully in flow. And really enjoy the moment. So you're enjoying the activity, you're enjoying each moment by moment. There's no fear, there's nothing negative to block you. It's just in a very enjoyable experience, and you are in joy, literally in this joyful energy. And then finally it peaks in enthusiasm, which can lead to an experience of ecstatic joy. So enthusiasm is, like, to use an analogy, I'm climbing the mountain and I'm enjoying the process. It's really, I'm enjoying the walk and the exercise and the fresh air and being with my companion or companions and seeing nature. I'm enjoying all that. There's a sense of, this is nice. And then you look at the top of the mountain and you go, it'd be really nice to get there. The view will be amazing. And so it doesn't take you out of it maybe temporarily. You think ahead, but then you restore your mind. Okay, well, let's go there. So I've got some kind of a goal, but I'm still very much in the now for the whole journey. So I'm enjoying the journey, but there's just that added element of, okay, I'm going somewhere, and you're not expecting that to be the be all and the end all of the walk. That's not that wouldn't then be correct, wouldn't be true joy. You just it's a sense of something else, a little bit of excitement, a little bit of, or challenge, or that's going to be really, really good if I can go there. And so you have enthusiasm, which the root word of which is entheos, which means in God. So you are inspired, another synonym for it. So you're inspired in the spirit, or entheos, in God, and you can't help but feel very fulfilled, very inspired, and in that state, there's virtually nothing you can't do, because it's such a powerful state. So this can lead to ecstatic joy. You can really feel, while you're in action, you can really feel ecstatic when you reach the top of the mountain. It can be a very kind of a peak experience, as Abraham Maslow calls these experiences, called ecstatic joy, a peak experience. Propose that it can be experienced by someone who's reached the transcendence level at the top of his expanded 8-level hierarchy of needs, which and I'll just click on and show you. There. So a lot of people don't realize, but Maslow had 2 versions of his hierarchy. The first one was just 5 levels, which went up to self-actualization. A lot of people think that was it. But later on, he came up with a second model where he included transcendence, the level of transcendence in the model. And so it's a transpersonal psychology, which is quite interesting. Transpersonal means beyond the sense of personal self. Transcendence needs. So these are the needs, spiritual needs. These are the needs to find something higher than just this world, higher than just pain and pleasure in this world, and this worldly reality. That would be a transcendence need. Okay, so transcendence level at the top of is expanded. So there you can, I just need to Google this. Do we have an image here? Steam needs. We might have. There we go. Personal development. Okay, so that's the existing model, which starts with physiological needs, safety needs, belongingness and love needs, esteem needs, and then self-actualization. So it's another developmental model. It's saying you've got to go through these first 3 levels. At these 3 levels, it would correspond with say negative consciousness, below the level of 200 in David Hawkins's scale consciousness. And then as you start to, and then you can see clearly the parallel that esteem needs. Well, that would probably be the level of pride, and then self-actualization. You're actually going beyond the negative side, and you're going into positive. As soon as you move into positive consciousness, in terms of this map of consciousness of David Hawkins, then you are self-actualizing, going but above 200. There's some self-actualization going on, and then David Hawkins has all these steps which Maslow doesn't have. He just has self-actualization, and then he added to that in his transcendence model things like aesthetic needs and transcendence needs. See if I can find that actually for you. So simplified hierarchy of needs. see if we can find a diagram. There we go. There's this hierarchy of needs. So there's the complete one. Physiological safety, belonging, and love. So these are all about, wanting to feel safe, and it's based on a perception of lack. So you're dealing with fear and desire all the time. And so is esteem. It's only when you get to the higher levels, say above esteem, that you start moving out of the ego. So there's cognitive, need for some kind of intellectual stimulation, aesthetic, need for beauty, in nature, in art. Then he puts self-actualization, so wanting to be the best you can be, live the most fulfilled life you can live, be the best you can be. That's self-actualization. And then transcendence at the very top of the pyramid, which transcends all of it. You transcend the limits of the personal self. You let that all go, and you become one with your source. And at the top of the pyramid, you become fully enlightened, as in the developmental model of David Hawkins. So they're quite similar in many ways, just different levels, but the same idea that you're going to grow from a more unconscious state into a more conscious one over time. Okay, so there's some more. It's a video on self-actualization and the expanded hierarchy, as well as the original one. If you want to go do a bit of listening on that to understand it, it's just another model. What I'm really trying to show you is that all the models, whether you take Maslow's hierarchy of needs, or you take David Hawkins's scale of consciousness, or you take yoga, or pretty much any model, any developmental psychological model has the same conclusion. There's a point of transcendence that it's all leading to. The top of the pyramid, it all leads to this state of enlightenment, transcending the sense of a separate self. As I say here, it's hardly a new one, and it's the highest state attainable in the ancient Indian transformational system of yoga called samadhi. That means to collect or to bring together in Sanskrit. So it suggests a concentration or unification of thought and emotion to produce the highest state of awareness that a person can experience, which they one with God, or an alternative language, in a state of pure formless awareness of perfect love. So it's a pointer to this, the highest state of mind. So it's called enlightenment in many spiritual traditions. In Course in Miracles, Yeshua refers to it as revelation, because it is a perfectly unified state of mind that transcends the body and this world entirely. Whereas a miracle entails a shift in perception, and so still involves an awareness of the world. So just working at different levels. Ultimately, the miracle is designed to take you out of the dream, from perception into knowledge. So the miracle prepares our minds for an experience of samadhi, or if you prefer the terms enlightenment or revelation, which can only happen when we're ready for it. And so practicing these workbook lessons and the other mind training material is the best preparation you can do. You can't actively go, I'm going to learn revelation. But what you can do is you can learn to remove all the blocks. Okay, so this is how you prepare yourself for an experience of revelation. It'll happen when it happens, but likely to happen much sooner if you do disciplined spiritual practice, because you are systematically and progressively correcting your mind, and the mind then responds. Okay, so if you want to explore that idea of samadhi, what it means. There's a 1-hour movie, 1-hour film on it, which is worth watching. He goes into the ideas of samadhi, and watch it. It'd be interesting to see if you agree with everything he said, because I didn't. Mostly it was on track, but there were a couple of things that I didn't agree with. So watch it and let me know your thoughts on that. So that brings us to the lesson. Any questions on that teaching? Oh, hi, Jackie.
I didn't really realize until you said it that acceptance is the same as forgiveness. I know it seems obvious now I'm saying it out loud, but yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah, whatever you call it, surrender, acceptance, forgiveness, letting go. These are all terms that are used in different paths to point to the same thing. Acceptance. Acceptance, I don't particularly like it because it can be confusing. So what am I accepting the reality of the situation then? But how can I accept that? Because it's terrible. So you're asking me to accept the unacceptable. But the only way to accept it is to look beyond it, or to let go of your perception of it. That's what acceptance really means. I come to a state of peace about it. That's what it means. Which means you must let go of your misperception. So it's not that accurate a term. It can be confusing. I like the letting go term most, because it just can't really be misinterpreted. It's like, well, you're going to let go. Okay, well, you can't misinterpret that to mean you should hang on to stuff and attach to stuff when it's so explicit. And then it does just avoid some of the confusions with some other terms like surrender or acceptance. Acceptance particularly confusing, because so what are you saying? I have to accept what's happened, accept the reality of it. But how can I find peace by acceptance? But that's not actually what it means. It means you accept peace anyway. You come to terms with it, and you come to a sense of peace in you. That's what it really means. Okay. So any other thoughts on that? Otherwise, shall we go into a meditation?
Yeah.
And that'll end our power hour, maybe power 50 minutes. We'll do 20 minutes. So just sitting comfortably, your feet shoulder width apart, back straight, cup your hands in your lap, close your eyes, and start off by taking a nice deep breath in through the nose. So breathing in, noticing how the stomach rises and the chest rises. And subtle flow of air in through the nostrils. Just clenching your sphincter muscle, locking the energy in, drawing the energy up the spine into your heart center, putting one hand on your heart to connect with your heart space. And then drawing it all the way up. Into the crown of your head, so pausing at the top of the inhale. And scan your mind and notice any thoughts and emotions, sensations going on, particularly anything that feels negative, limiting, contracted, constricting, unpleasant in any way, shape, or form. Just breathe into that. Just inviting this presence of love and light to every pore, every cell, every muscle of your body, every part of your mind is in light. and light of your true awareness. And so now it's going to blow it all away with the breeze of your breath to the nothingness that it really is. Remind yourself that I accept the gifts, that forgiveness or letting go gives me. I claim the gifts, I accept the gifts, letting go gives me. Today, just breathe these gifts in. You feel this foundational happiness. It brings you peace. And blow away anything that's not peaceful. So exhale. Blow it all away with the breeze of your breath to the nothingness that it really is. It's going, gone. I'll just rest in this deep peace and stillness. A few moments. This is the foundational happiness which brings peace that I talked about. So just experience it for yourself now. Nothing else to do, nowhere else to go, nothing else to think about. Just breathing in and out through the nostrils. So just be quiet and still. Listen to these profound words drop in like pebbles in a pond, just dropping into your mind. If any thoughts come in to disturb this deep peace, just observe them. You don't push them away, repress them, suppress them. You just so many thoughts come in to disturb you. Just observe them. It's a very quiet, calm way. Notice those thoughts and emotions and remind yourself that today I claim the gifts forgiveness gives, or I accept the gifts letting go gives me. Today, so breathe them into every pore, every cell, every muscle of your body. And you're just going to choose to let it all go. Emptying your mind, emptying the vessel to listen to these profound words, short commentary on the lesson. Let them just seep in to your mind. It's absorbing the frequency of them. So I will not wait another day to find the treasures that my Father or my Source offers me, says Yeshua. Illusions are all vain, and dreams are gone even while they are woven out of thoughts that rest on false perceptions. Let me not accept such meager gifts again today. Perfect love's voice is offering the peace, pure, formless awareness and peace of God to all who hear and choose to follow it. To make this choice yourself today. Say, this is my choice. So let me not accept such meager gifts again today. Perfect love's voice is offering the peace of God, peace of pure formless awareness to all who hear and choose to follow it. To make this choice today. So this is my choice today. This is my choice today. And so I go to find the treasures, pure formless awareness of perfect love, which is God, has given me. So I go to find the treasures. God, or pure formless awareness of perfect love, has given me. So just breathing, nice, deep, slow, rhythmical breaths in and out through your nose. Say, I seek only the eternal. I choose only the eternal, better than seeking. For your son or extension can be content with nothing less than this. What then can be my solace? Comfort. I prefer that to solace. Accept what you are offering to my bewildered mind and frightened heart. Forgive me certainly. Give me certainty and bring me peace. What then can be my solace except what you are offering to my bewildered mind and frightened heart? Give me certainty and bring me peace. Today, I choose to perceive my companion, to see my brother sinless. See my companion as innocent. It doesn't matter what he or she has done. Everyone is actually innocent in truth. So I experience my own innocence. And your awareness comes to me. So as you see others as innocent, you can't help but see yourself as innocent and experience so sink into this awareness, allow this awareness to come to you. I'm going to read you today's quote because it's really talks about this loving awareness quite nicely. You are goodness and mercy and compassion and understanding. You are peace and joy and light. Just breathe all these things in. Every pore and every cell, every muscle of your body, every part of your mind, and every fiber of your being. Your peace and joy and light. Your forgiveness and patience and strength and courage, a helper in time of need. Comforter in time of sorrow, a healer in time of injury, a teacher in times of confusion. You are the deepest wisdom and the highest truth, the greatest peace and the grandest love. You are all of these things. In moments of your life, you have known yourself to be these things. So choose now to know yourself as these things, always. Because these are always true. Gifts of God are always there. So now sink inwards. Breathe in to every pore, every cell, every muscle of your body, every part of your mind is infused with this energy. The gifts of God, perfect love or pure formless awareness, love, peace, joy. There's nowhere else to go, nothing else to do, nothing else to think about. Just surrender all other thoughts. And if any thoughts arise, seemingly disturb your peace, just observe them casually and wanting to let them go. Blow them all away. Breeze of your breath. To the nothingness they really are. Imagine they're leaving you like a dark cloud. Black smoke. Going, gone. And you just rest in this deep peace and stillness. Another minute or so of deep silence. So just coming back gently. Awareness of the body, breath, senses in the world. And on the count of 3, you're going to open your eyes. So 1, just breathing in. And noticing how the stomach rises and the chest rises. Subtle flow of air in through the nostrils. Just pausing at the top of the inhale. Scan your mind, notice any thoughts, emotions, body sensations going on, particularly anything that feels at all out of accord with love. It's not peaceful, not happy, unpleasant. Just breathe into it. So you breathe in some awareness, spacious awareness, light, and then going to let go again with the help of your breath. So any darkness, you just blow it out. Blow it out to the breeze of your breath. So nothingness that really has pulled the lower stomach into the spine. So notice how the air flows out, chest and stomach suck back in, weight of your body. Count of 2 is pressing down into the chair, feet touching the ground. Notice what you're feeling, your hands touching. And there's a subtle taste in your mouth, notice that. Breathe in, notice any smell in your nose. Noticing all these things from this very still, calm and surrendered state. And a deep breath in, pause. Again, just notice what you're hearing, but without any judgment. Not naming, judging, or labeling, or interpreting the sounds or any of your sense perceptions at all. Notice how peaceful it is. We talked about the idea of foundational happiness, ground of being, which is where you find your peace. Try and find that now. And just be okay. And think about the past, think about the future. Just be okay with everything as it is. Now, to make the exercise even a bit more challenging, on the count of 3, open your eyes. You're just going to look around and try and maintain this awareness. So it's exactly the same peaceful awareness as you had when your eyes were closed, but now your eyes are open. So the visual sense lures us in. It's very easy to get sucked into believing what our eyes tell us is there. And then we get mentally and emotionally attached, and that sabotages our pure formless awareness, perfect love, which is all we're really after. So just anchor the state in, notice a few objects randomly, let your eyes rest for a couple of seconds on each one, and notice that it's the same state, the same underlying state of mind, foundational happiness, peace, the ground of being. And it feels just really, everything's okay. It's not wildly exciting, but there's no real disturbance to your peace. So this is the level of foundational happiness, which is the foundation for joy and enthusiasm. You can't attain those higher states if you haven't got the foundations in place. So that brings us to the end of the meditation. Just 3, open your eyes if you dropped off again, and bring yourself back fully into the present moment, into the room, wherever you are, awake, alert, and ready to dive in a bit deeper to the lesson. I thought we might do some of the Song of Prayer tonight. So that brings us to the end of the meditation and our sort of power hour today. Really, it's been almost an hour. So if you need to leave now, it's a natural time to leave. Otherwise, we shall continue with a bit of an expression session. So, Kim, you're going to stay with us? Are you back home?
Yeah, I'll stay for the expression session, and I need to drop off after that. Okay.
Okay. Does anyone want to express anything? If you do and it's personal, then I'll stop the recording. If it's just a general question or something, then it's useful for people to hear that. So just let me know. Anyone want to share anything? Any questions?
Yeah, maybe just around the quotes and what was being shared around yesterday. What came up is this quote from Neil Donaldson Welsh talks about being in compassion and mercy. And it seemed, sorry, Sadie, I have to ask again, when you had that 18 hours of, when you felt oneness, I think you said you went beyond, I don't know if it was the compassion, but just beyond. I could be misinterpreting things or mishearing things. So I just wanted to ask about that. Especially when you are also still in this world. Yeah.
I wasn't in the world. When I was in the oneness, fully in the oneness, there was no sensations, no words, no thoughts, no body, no people. There was that was just complete. I don't know. I haven't got the words for it. It's just complete, expanded beingness. There was no need for compassion. Everything was perfect in it. It's just no words to explain it, really. It really interests you, doesn't it, Kim? It really inspires you want to have that.
Yeah, I mean, I think that seems to be on another level while we're here. And I think that's where the conversation also went yesterday around, with Yeshua saying, like, why in the world meeting someone where they're at? So I guess it's a little bit of a different experience, or maybe a different level. So, yeah.
When you're talking about the transcendent level, Sally experienced of a another reality, another world. You were still, presumably you still had your sense perceptions going on, but the way you interpreted them was
most of the time no sense perception.
So were your eyes closed or were your eyes open? Most of the time?
When they were closed, there was no sense perception.
Yeah. If you opened your eyes, stuff was coming in, but you maintained that same state. Did it affect it when you opened your eyes?
Well, there was no connection with another person. It just wasn't like I was a body looking at another body. If somebody spoke, I realized they were speaking, but I had no emotional reaction to it or thought pattern to go with it.
So it's a non-dual state of mind. You were out of duality, out of time and space, although the senses are still going on. The way your mind perceives it is from that oneness state, and it's a profoundly different state of mind, isn't it? And you can't really explain it, which is part of the problem. The mystics have never really been able to explain what they experienced and put it into words, because it's an experience, and you can use words like, I was just blissed out, or I was really so peaceful, or I didn't have any sense perceptions, and that's kind of a pointer, I suppose. But in the end, the only thing that is of value is the experience itself. The words just point to it. So, and that's not something you can, everyone's got to go through their own process to have that experience.
I think we do have those experiences occasionally anyway, don't we? When, like I've had it when you, at sunset, or when you're with a very young baby or with a kitten, maybe. There's moments where time stands still, I'm connected with everything, and nothing else is going on. So I think we all have those moments, don't we?
I think everyone probably at some point in their life has had, an expanded consciousness experience, but often they don't recognize it. It would be so fleeting and brief that they would be like, oh, that just felt really good, but they don't really know what's happened. They don't understand, what it is. And so it's it happens kind of by accident. The circumstances just produce it. But what we're trying to do here is systematically train our minds to experience more and more of that through, a conscious process of forgiveness or letting go, to allow that experience more and more to arise. And I would suspect, we can't know for sure, but if you hadn't done the work you've done over the last, say, 8 months with this program and Course in Miracles, it's probably unlikely that you would be attaining these states. One would think. I mean, one doesn't know, and there's no way of knowing because you have done it, and these things are happening. But the states are spontaneously arising, but you've done a lot of undoing work, a lot of processing, a lot of forgiveness. I know that you're very diligent. I'm like, okay, something comes up, I look at it and I go through a process and I collapse it, and so a lot of letting go, and then that state just arises, which is really showing us that what Yeshua is saying in the course is true. Maybe that's why it fascinates you so much, Kim, because he's saying to us, look, this is how you attain the state. You want the peace of God that surpasses all understanding, this absolutely transcendent level of what I call here revelation. Interesting. It's a very appropriate teaching today, which is one of the reasons why I chose it. So you've got the level of revelation. It's called samadhi in the Eastern traditions. Enlightenment, Yeshua calls it revelation. And he's saying revelation transcends time entirely. Transcends the body, it transcends time, it transcends perception. So you can't really function in the world in revelation. So what you experienced was revelation. And then, but he says that revelation may come, and that's fine, great. But it's probably not a sustainable state while you're in a body. It doesn't last for that long. So it's more useful to talk about miracles, which happen in time and space, so in the domain of duality and perception. And they are the correction of our mind, the undoing of our false belief system that's keeping us in time, to then allow our minds to go into the transcendent state of revelation ultimately. And it's called A Course in Miracles and not A Course in Revelation, because it's set at the domain at the level of the world and perception where the miracle is necessary. So that's this working in this world, which is where the Course is finding us and addressing us, is the level of miracles, and that's still illusion. He says the miracle is an illusion, forgiveness is an illusion, because ultimately it's not required in revelation at all, is it? But it's necessary to attain that state, to go through this process of training your mind and undoing the ego on this level, so that you're ready for that kind of experience to happen. And then, quite encouragingly, he says, well, God takes the final step. What does he mean by that? It means it just kind of happens. It's not like some hand reaches down and you kind of just merge into that experience, and it just sort of spontaneously arises when you're ready. And you enter as you'd been doing the transformation game. Okay, so maybe there was a catalyst for it, but there was no particular reason that it should happen then. It just arose, and you didn't consciously go, oh, I think I'll go into samadhi for the next 18 hours. You know, I want to experience the mind. It doesn't work that way. It just, you know, it happens. It arises spontaneously when your mind is ready for it. And that's kind of what he's saying to us. Revelation will come when you're ready. And that even if you have a revelation experience, it's probably not going to last. You know, you're not going to stay in that state for forever. 18 hours is quite a long time to be in it. You'll come down, you'll come back out of that, and then you're back in time and space and dealing with, you know, the various issues, and that's where the miracles are necessary. So he's addressing it. He's actually been quite practical and realistic in many ways, although he's trying to free our minds entirely, saying, well, you know, I understand what you're dealing with, and I understand that seems to be, you know, what's happening, and it's quite difficult to shift out of that. So, okay, we'll meet you where you are, and I'll give you a course that's designed to help you to really live as functionally and as effectively as you can in the world while you're undoing your false belief system, your delusional thought system, and preparing your mind for this other level, revelation, or also called nirvana by the Buddha, samadhi, whatever you want to call it. It doesn't, the words don't really matter, do they? They're just pointers, whatever you want to call it. But there are many terms to point to this, you know, ultimate state of enlightenment. That's another term to point to. It's the ultimate state of mind.
I was going to say, John, I thought it was interesting that David Hawkins put A Course in Miracles at 600 in his scale of consciousness, which I thought was quite low, actually, relatively. But presumably that's because it doesn't take you all the way. It takes you to a point of peace, preparation for the higher.
Yeah, I mean, that is interesting. I mean, again, you don't know the scale of consciousness. Again, it's symbols in a dream. So what is it actually, you know, it's not absolutely true. It's just can be useful as a pointer. But the course is set at the level of, you know, still within the illusion, because he's got to reach us somewhere. If it was set at the level of 1,000, it wouldn't reach anyone. And you can't really set at the level of 1,000. It wouldn't be a book anymore. You see, it's using words. Nothing in form would sustain at that level. It's a pure experience then. To calibrate at the level of 1,000, that's just, you know, your interior experience. So, you know, maybe when you were in that revelatory state, you were somewhere between 700 and 1,000, Sally. But it's not something you can really go, oh, you know, there it is, and that's what it is, and I can now define it. You're not even concerned with models at that point and what level you're at, and because all that's dropped away. So I think that's probably why it's addressing us, you know, at the level where it's needed to reach us. So it can't calibrate at 1,000 because it just miss everyone. I feel like no one would get it at all. 1,000 would be like, it's an empty book. It's like, it's just blank pages, and it just says God is or love is or something, you know, like one sentence, and that's it, you know, because it is actually that simple. But he's given us all the words and the, you know, the mental gymnastics, because he knows the ego is very tricky, and he's got to meet us within the ego domain and help us to work out the ego, work it out of our system using this course.
When I think back over the last few months, I suppose, I kept getting little glimpses of breakthroughs, of realizing that hearing wasn't an external thing. And I don't know if you remember, I was talking about the heat. When the heat was on, if I couldn't hear it, I couldn't feel the heat. So my senses were beginning to fluctuate for a while. And I can see, when I look back, I can see that it's a bit like getting minute glimpses, and then gradually they join together, and then you get a longer experience. And yeah, I never thought I'd get to a point where there was a place with no thought, no emotions, and no body. You know, it's just like you couldn't make it up. It's not like an expectation that I'd be in that state. So it's interesting it happens, isn't it?
Yeah, well, the ego mind can't conceive of that state. It's beyond what the ego can conceive of, because the ego can only conceive of itself. More mind stuff, more. Oh, no. Even enlightenment, it makes that into a false idol. Because when you're enlightened, you're going to be like really, really happy, or you're going to be really joyful, or you're going to be like this great guru, and people are going to come and listen to you, whatever. They'll create an image of it, which is actually just another false idol. It's not what it is at all.
No, it's not.
A pure experience of this is untainted by the thinking mind. Means that the ego has dropped away there. So it's not there anymore. So of course it can't conceive of that. Can't conceive of its own non-existence. In the ego framework, you can't conceive of that. Certainly not something the ego would want to attain. It might want to attain enlightenment, but it won't understand that that's what enlightenment is. It's going to say enlightenment is something else. It'll make an idol of it, a false image, and then you're going to go for that. And enlightenment is always there. It's just always coming. It's never now. But that experience was just now, wasn't it? Now, no past and no future. You're just absolutely present, but not really connected to this world at all. Just
and also,
in that pure formless awareness that we talk.
It's not like I kind of expected it to be like a high, being in that state, but it wasn't at all. It's not like there could be no addiction to it because there's no high. There was no disappointment when it wore off. It's very interesting.
So it's an experience that just transcends all other experiences. You can't really place it and frame it in time and space, can you? It doesn't fit into the ego's world of experiences and emotions and thoughts, and it's beyond that. And then you start to, like, how do you explain that to people? It's not easy to explain what that state is. They go, "Are you sure you're okay? Maybe you need to go and get some help," because you're going out of the normal domain. And most psychiatrists, psychologists, mental health professionals, they wouldn't necessarily understand it because they haven't experienced it themselves. How would you know then if you haven't experienced it? You might say, well, you frame it you try and frame it within the ego's framework and say, this is what it is, and let's try and explain it. And you can't. It doesn't fit within that framework at all. It's beyond it. Only these spiritual teachings can really help you to understand it.
And I think it's also interesting because living with a couple of other people, I think Jackie probably felt I was a bit cut off emotionally, and Lynn thought I was on a high, at different times. Because it's their interpretation and it's their projection onto me, isn't it? Which is interesting.
Yeah, well, it's not a common, it's not a common state. So it's unfamiliar. It's the unknown for people. Like, well, what's going on? Like Sally's being a bit checked out. What's that all about? Is it me? Have I done something? Actually, it's got nothing to do with them at all. That's the whole point. You've transcended, the level of form and relationships and all of that entirely. Which is why a lot of mystics don't necessarily, they don't often live in communities or families, or they're just in their own world, really. If people come along and want teachings, let's say like Ramana, I mean, he had no intention of teaching people. He just was in that state of samadhi most of the time, and then people show up and they go, we want your teaching. So he's like, okay, well, what would love do? I'll give them the teaching. But his teaching was just like, just sit with me and just experience the silence. That was really what he was saying. So there's really nothing to this. It's he would ask them maybe a few questions like, who suffers? If you've got a story, who's suffering, to try and point them to the illusory nature of the ego that's suffering, and then help them just to experience the absolute stillness in his presence that's there. and that stillness and that silence then does the healing. It's so simple, yet for most people it's elusive because their ego is in charge, and that state of consciousness is all but lost to them. They can't access it anymore. And the way to do it is disciplined mind training, spiritual practice. Can do that. Can start undoing the ego's blocks to this awareness and allowing you to experience, more and more of it. I've had that state, but I mean, it didn't last 18 hours. It was like maybe a few minutes. But I know what you mean. It's just like nothing's going on there. You're just in a state. I was aware, but there's just awareness, and that's it. There's nothing else going on at all. So
quite funny that time moves on at all, though, isn't it? Because in the state, it's timeless. So it's funny that when you check back in, time has gone on at all.
well, you're still within the construct of time and space. You haven't left it, so time seems to your perception of time. You might go.
Perception's gone, isn't it? Yeah.
The perception of it. You might go 18 hours. Didn't feel like 18 hours. It felt like 5 minutes, or it felt like I couldn't really put a time to it. When I was in that state, I didn't know how long it was. I have an idea it wasn't very long because I know there was another session and there was a bell, and so I had some kind of reference. But it could have been half an hour. I don't know. There's no sense of time in that state. It's timeless. So it's not a state you can really. I mean, what he's saying to us, I think, is very sensible. He's saying, don't aim for it, because that just puts it within the ego's domain. You can't set that as a goal and say, oh, well, I want to attain samadhi in the next month or in the next year. Because again, that puts it in the ego's domain, and you're desiring something. You're saying it's not here now, and I'm desiring it, and none of that kind of thinking is going to get you there. So you let all that go, and you say, well, really, my only goal is moment by moment to practice this technique of letting go. Whatever's arising, whatever I'm aware of as a block to the awareness of love's presence, I need to let that go. And really that's what you've been doing. Systematically, you don't make exceptions, and you let stuff go and collapse it, and you do that kind of real time, moment by moment. You're not letting it hang around. And so you're doing exactly what he's asking you to do with this course. And then there's no accident that you get that effect, because he's saying, well, that will be the effect ultimately. Revelation will come in time when your mind is ready for it. So it's a good, a really good case study. If you don't mind being a case study, it's always useful to go, well, this is actually what can happen if you apply yourself. If you really work the system, and you do what Yeshua is asking you to do, then these kinds of states, which we normally associate with super uber enlightened beings like Jesus and Buddha and others who are it seems to be unattainable. Well, it is attainable in a relatively short space of time. Actually, it hasn't been that long, has it? 8 months. When did you join? May, so around about 7-8 months of but you've put in a lot of time, a lot of work and practice. So it's a result of probably thousands of hours of work to get there. But still, I mean, relatively in a span of a lifetime, it's not that much to attain the ultimate state. So it puts it within the domain of what's attainable, which is nice. It's like, okay, you can do this. You want this, you can do it. And here's a way. Just focus on doing this program, which is something you can consciously do, and these kinds of things can happen. And you can't say when. There's no way you could ever promise someone, oh, well, after 8 months, you can expect to have a samadhi experience. You just can't, because it just doesn't work that way. It just depends on their mind, how blocked they are, how much work they're going to do. Everyone's journey is going to be their own and unique, although they're going to the same destination. I hope that does that help, Kim, that sort of discussion on it, to understand it.
Yeah, and I think because it is really helpful. Thank you. I think my question is around maybe just while in this world, like we still, because I think that's already transcending. But it's coming back to that quote we mentioned, compassion, for instance. I mean, you're still connecting. We still sort of are separate selves in that sense, but it's going in the right direction, right?
That's an interesting point, because if you remember, there was a teaching that I gave on compassion as kind of a halfway kind of forgiveness. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
So you've got pseudo forgiveness, which is just pretending to forgive but not letting go at all. In fact, it's judgment. And then somewhere in between that and radical forgiveness is this idea of compassionate forgiveness, where you go, okay, I can, it's still seemingly real, it's still seemingly happened, but I can try and understand, that person, they might have been, behaving this way because they've had a tough life, they've had difficulties. This is the best they can do at the time in their current state of consciousness, given their conditioning and experiences. These kinds of thoughts are compassionate in nature, and they help you to soften your judgment and have a bit more understanding. But it's still real. Compassion is still, you're looking on it with the softening. There's not so much judgment, but it's still real in your perception. Whereas radical forgiveness simply sees it as unreal. Seems to be there, but radical forgiveness would go, it's not there. I see through the illusion of its so-called reality and existence, and realize that it's not actually there. And so that's an entirely different level. That takes you to the transcendent level that you experienced. Would you say, Sally, that was your experience? You were like, well, I can't really feel anything about this because it's unreal.
Yeah, exactly. There's nothing to feel because it's just, yeah. Yeah, nothing there.
So a good example of what radical forgiveness actually is. It's like it doesn't make anything real. You don't perceive. There's still, if you open your eyes and people are talking to you, there's still that going on. You can hear, you can see, but you don't make any of what's happening real. So the mind doesn't judge any of it. So you don't then have to go into a story about it and say, well, maybe that this person is saying this because of their past, and maybe they had a difficult childhood, and that's all still within the story. You've transcended that, and so there's no particular thoughts and emotion about it. You just rest in that changeless state, an unchanging awareness that doesn't change irrespective of whatever's happening in time and space. And that's the radical forgiveness we're talking about. That's what Yeshua's teaching us.
Before I went into that state, while I was talking to my friend and we were playing this transformation game, I was understanding the oneness more and more, that I was feeling I could see how oneness worked. I kept getting moments of, oh, it's like that, and oh, it's like that. And so it wasn't like an instant going into it, it was prolonged over a few hours, gradually getting these like, oh my goodness, that's how it works. Oh my goodness. It was like an expansion of just understanding the connectedness of it all. And it felt very much like the butterfly effect, that one thing happens and it affects everything. And it was just a gradual learning. And then now I'm out of it, I'm getting back to a bit more like how it used to be, but not going back all the way, like
I think once you've had an experience like that, there's no going back. I mean, that it's possible. You've experienced it for yourself. No one can say, oh, that's all, cuckoo stuff and la la land and it's all made up. It's like, well, I know it's not, because I've experienced it firsthand. So you can't really go back. The only way is, forward. You still have some challenges showing up. Maybe there's still some ego undoing to do, almost certainly. But that experience becomes a reference. You know for sure that there is this transcendent reality. It exists. You've experienced it. You cannot doubt it anymore. So there's a certainty that comes, which hopefully just, your faith is then becomes just that much more solid. It's like, well, nothing will convince me otherwise. Doesn't matter what the ego is saying and doing. I know that state is there because I've experienced it.
Yeah, and it's easier to, because I always used to say we're not the body, we don't have a body, I don't have a body. But when having now experienced it, that does take it a bit deeper, doesn't it?
Yeah, well, you experience not having it. You were in a
Yeah.
state of awareness where you weren't aware of your body.
Mm.
So that shows you, well, that that state of awareness is there. It's possible. And if your body dropped away in that moment, let's say you died in that instant, it wouldn't have been a problem.
No, not
It's
at
like,
all.
no problem, no drama, just the body dropping away. Oh, okay, no body anymore. Well, have I really gone anywhere? Has anything really changed? Not really. I'm still
No.
in that awareness. Just no body, because no chance of going back. But I'm just resting in this awareness. So when Romano was dying of cancer and all his disciples were getting upset, he's going, but I'm not going anywhere. It's no big deal. There's really no. I'm just the same, for him, because he's not identified with the body at all. So it's like, well, the body's going to drop away, but I'm still there. I'm just as I am. The I am presence is still going to be there, just not going to have a body attached to it. That's all.
Yeah.
So you won't see me as, because you thought I was a person. You won't see that. And then, if you're attached to the person and the body, then there's a sense of loss. But I mean, that was all illusion. It's not real. And so an experience like that, maybe experientially, it shows you that it's illusion. It's like what you thought was solid and real is just a veil. It's illusion. And what's true is that underlying state of awareness, the ground of being, that's ultimate truth, beyond which there is no other truth. You can't go beyond that. Where would you go but there? There's not like a higher truth, another awareness. That's it. You've reached it.
So you saying that makes it more understandable that when somebody dies, they don't necessarily leave the room. They're still there. And yeah, so
Well,
that's
they're
helpful.
everywhere. I mean, there's no
Everywhere. Yeah, there's no
locality then. There's no
limitation.
time and space. So they're actually everywhere. So they haven't really gone anywhere. Actually, in truth, the body's gone, but then they were never their body anyway. Only an illusion can seem to be lost. If you realize that they weren't a body, then, well, what was really lost? And they weren't their personal identity. They weren't the personality selves. And nothing real was lost. But what is real cannot die. I mean, that's just such a relief. Okay, nothing can really die. So there's none of that huge fear of death that most people have. It's all going to end, and that's a disaster. And the ultimate disaster is death. You're going to die. Your separate self that you cherish so much, and the body that is at home is going to die. And then what? Well, if you're in the Holy Spirit in this state, it's like, well, then you just rest in your true nature. That's all, and just be as you truly are. And that's no bad thing. That's exactly what we're supposed to do. So death is then just the opening into that dimension. So, okay, it's just going to finally, you're going to let go of the body. You don't have to then have perception. With no body and no world, there's no perception, is there? You've let go of that whole mechanism, and you just rest in that awareness. And if you were in that awareness for eternity, well, is that a bad thing?
No.
It's beautiful. It's peaceful. The ego is going to go, that's boring. We want some action and some drama. And you said you experienced a little bit of that. Oh, maybe there's still some little lurking desire for some kind of drama other than that awareness, because that's what it is. It's a desire for something other than that awareness. That desire is what kicked off the whole thing, the whole dream. But in your right mind, would you really choose that?
No.
How can you, like, really?
Mm,
You trade this world and all the temporary experiences and all the ups and the downs for that experience?
mm.
Would you really? You know, I mean, that's everyone's going to make that choice. But if you've experienced it like you did, why would you choose anything else? Is there anything here that can offer you more than that? That's the question.
Yeah, for me, it feels like as you're talking that it's going to now leave me with a lot of peace when people die. Not that I had any lack of peace, but it feels more like I know where they are. You know, I know they're joining the oneness, and like the dog is likely to go in the next year or something. And yeah, so she'll be in that place where I was, and that's nice to know.
Yeah, just peace, and that's no bad, you know, not a bad state. She'll be free of her body, and you always, that's a great state to be in. No, none of the dramas of the human condition or the dog condition, or, you know, no sickness, no pain, no suffering, no death. That's really nothing to be sad about. That's something to be joyful about. Wow, you know, amazing. They escaped. They're not part of the, you know, the dream world, which is a prison. I mean, yes, you're saying this is a prison. You stuck here, and you're enslaved by your ego into this hellish world. And so liberation is, you know, you're free of that. You don't have to be here anymore. So why would you be sad about that? So it's totally different, you know, thought system. And a lot of people will go, well, that's not very, you know, you should be sad when someone dies. You should feel these things, because that's, you know, the normal state of consciousness, which we think of as normal, but actually it's insane. Normal is insane. And what's normal, that state of awareness you're in, is seen as weird and but out there, and, you know, somewhat dangerous, radical.
I think for those who haven't yet made their transition, there's the missing of the person. So it's very reassuring, you know, that we will all go into that state of oneness when we transition.
Well, you will if you've accepted it. Yeah, you won't if you've still got your separate self going on and you haven't collapsed that. Then, well, that continues in your mind. You remain egoic after death, and the separate self continues. And for sure, you will reincarnate, because that's where you come back here to experience your separate self, the effects of it in this world. So you're not in oneness necessarily. If you've denied oneness your whole life and then suddenly you die, it's like, well, why do you think suddenly that you're going to get it? Your mind is, you know, is still in that separated state. And so you come back.
The people who have near-death experiences, who, you know, they're not necessarily even on a spiritual path, and yet they report back this state of unconditional love that they into on the other side.
So I think what happens with a near-death experience is you go, it's such a contrast to this world. You know, it's like, wow, I'm going into this other domain, and it feels, you know, beautiful and peaceful and wonderful. And then, you know, they don't stay there very long, because they're going to come back into the body. And so the contrast is, you know, really something that is striking. And you know, so they all come back saying, you know, it is wonderful and peaceful. If they did die and they stayed there for a while and the ego is still intact, then that experience would fade, and the guilt and the sin and the fear that the ego feels would start to come back, and that would cause a reincarnation. They couldn't stay there. The ego won't allow you to stay in that state for very long, because it's still there, and it's you know, it's got to then its law is it's got to project itself out, and it's got to go then experience itself in a body, and experience the ego's thought system, and actually live it out. And that's what causes the reincarnation, the guilt. And remember, if you can't deal with your own guilt, you haven't dealt with that, then what do you need to do? You need to come into a body where you can project that guilt out onto other people and things. And that's how you then deal with guilt. So that's why the guilt idea is so important in the Course's teaching, which makes it quite unique in spiritual teaching. He's saying guilt is the problem. If you can let go of all of your guilt, you will not come back here. But as long as you have guilt, you will come back, because the ego will tell you, you can come back here and you can project your guilt onto others by blaming. And this world gives you, many, many opportunities, as we know, to blame someone or something else. In doing that, you project your guilt. Now they're responsible and you're not responsible. So they're responsible. You're off the hook. They're the ones who are going to be punished. And it's a very, it's a false, completely false way of dealing with the problem, which doesn't work. The more you project your guilt as blame, the more you actually experience guilt. You foster that guilt. You perpetuate it. So it just keeps you in the cycle. So he's saying you need to have let go of all of your guilt by the time you exit and the body dies. Otherwise, the guilt will pull you back and you'll come into another incarnation. Which, okay, maybe you've got some more work to do then. It's not the end of the world. It's just another incarnation. You've got to go through the same old, and you got to work through your stuff in your next life. And we've all done many of these lives. But for those who want it, are determined, he's saying, well, you could do it in one lifetime if you want. It's possible.
So when sometimes, if you talk to somebody who is psychic or a bit psychic, they say they can sense the presence of somebody's energy. What they're saying then is that they're sensing the presence of their ego or their ego personality. Is that still intact?
Yeah. The person still thinks they're a person. So that egoic energy with all of the, whatever that person was thinking and feeling, and the understanding they had, the past, these entities, then they still have all that, even though they're not in a body or a brain. They exist as these incorporeal, as mind, as they're just ideas. And so
they're no wiser than they would have been on Earth.
Not necessarily, no. Just because someone's incorporeal doesn't mean they have any more wisdom.
But they have more of a bird's eye view of what's going on. So,
well, perhaps they're just totally lost. I mean, think of ghosts. So a lot of them just get lost in a kind of time loop, and they don't know. They think they're alive, but they're not. So they're just knocking around in their old location, trying to reenact. Thinking maybe they still have a body.
Yeah.
But they're actually confused. They don't know who they are or where they are or what they're doing. Because if they did, they wouldn't be hanging around there, would they? They'd be in pure formless awareness of perfect love. They wouldn't be knocking around some old house or whatever, trying to reenact their, but they got stuck. You see, I think what happens with ghosts is people get stuck. They can't let go. And they die in that state, and then their mind draws them back to that place, and then they're hanging around as this egoic energy, which can be quite toxic, quite malevolent, or at the very very best, it's just a bit confused. They don't really know what's going on. So don't ask those. I mean, people go and they do seances and they try and contact. Well, don't ask a confused entity for advice, because it's not going to give you good advice at all. In fact, it might give you very harmful advice. If it's of the egoic persuasion, it's dark. That could be very, very harmful. Very because it's going to tell you things that are not true and try and make them true. And then you go, oh well, it came from another dimension, so it must be true. No, it's just the ego exists on the incorporeal level as well. It's just a thought system. So they just enslaved to that, even though they're not in a body. But then, just like what the ego does is it will try and extend itself, project itself through bodies. So an entity like that could try and then like hijack a body to try and use that body for its purposes, and that's what we call possession. So a weak mind that doesn't have its own strong idea could be hijacked by something like that and could take it over, which has been known to happen. It's called possession. But if you're doing this kind of work, an entity like that's got no chance. You just go, what? No. Bye-bye. Out you go, clean it out. And there's letting go, it's got no chance of entering in. You have to allow it in. So there's really nothing to be scared of. It's like, well, that's just, it's a non-existent. Doesn't that kind of thing can't scare you, because you just realize like it's non-existent, doesn't so it can't harm you.
So what I've come across just recently is people that I can't read their energy. Their energy is completely clear. So I'm wondering if they are enlightened people. Like when I normally I can sense people's resistant energy, but I've come across 3 people now and I just can't feel them. They're just energetically, there's no resistance there. They're just like clear energy. I can't read their energy. So I presume you call them enlightened, or are they non-ego? I don't know how it all works.
Well, enlightenment is, they've collapsed the ego entirely. If that's the case, and you've met 3 people, that's unusual because there aren't that many people around. But they might be quite a high state. So there's no sense of a person. I remember meeting David Hoffmeister. I didn't really get a sense that he was a person. It was weird. Kind of a weird.
Yeah.
Just like it's such a light presence, like a feather. The image came to mind. It's like, this is like meeting a feather. He's just so light and joyful, and there isn't like a defined personality. There's no kind of heaviness to it. So you can't really like read his energy. It's just a light.
But you can't read their energy.
Well, he is just that awareness. And at that point I wasn't quite where I am now, but that's what I experienced. And then I had a contrasting experience with another teacher who had quite a kind of heavy egoic energy. He was also teaching A Course in Miracles, but it was like very clearly you can feel that entity there, that kind of egoic presence, and it's got a totally different feeling to it. And it's just, you're interacting with both so-called people, but a totally different energetic feeling, because the one is in spirit and the other one is still rooted in his ego, and you can sense that. And it's not the contrast is very marked. So it was a good experience actually to have had that within the space of like an hour of each experience, to have the contrast, because that's how you learn. So Jackie, when Sally was in that state, what did you feel? Did you feel like she's just like not there?
No,
I didn't even know. It must have been when I came back from London that you were in it.
Yeah.
So I came back and I don't know, just felt slightly odd. But I put it down to me, coming back from where I used to live, and my own stuff that I was dealing with.
But at the time, I could hardly speak to her. Like I couldn't even. It was like I was drunk. It's like the effort to actually speak was like so hard to do.
I know that. I sometimes go into this, and you don't really want to speak, and it's just like there's like people are like, well, you're being antisocial. It's like that's the interpretation of it, but it's not the case. It's just like you're in a deep state. There's
nothing to say, is there? Because there's no thought. Yeah, there's no thought to tell you to speak. So there's nothing to say.
And nothing comes, so you're just like, well, I'll just stay in the emptiness. It's quite pleasant actually. And the conversations going on around you, it's like I don't really have to engage in that. And then people are like, oh, but you're being antisocial, or, you're not engaging, and you should be, but they don't really understand what you're experiencing. So it's not something that's common, and that's well understood, and it makes you a bit people perceive you as weird and a bit frightening and scary, which is always been the case. Enlightened beings have often been feared.
Yeah, well, I could totally get that, because this other lady that I've come across today, she I can't read her, so I feel insecure. I feel not insecure, but I feel like I don't know who she is. She's very light. She feels like she's floaty. I can't catch on to anything about her.
Hmm.
And there's another chap we know as well. He's the same. It's like he hardly speaks. He's got nothing to say, and it's very difficult to have a conversation with him.
Hmm.
But he's just like there's nothing there.
Hmm.
Funny.
Well, it's emptiness, isn't it? It's just formless emptiness. And you can't frame it. You can't go, well, there's the person. That's
No.
what they are. You can't, because it's just spacious awareness. There's no definition to it, which makes the self-concept, if you've got a defined self-concept, it makes it nervous. Okay, well, I've got a defined self-concept, so where are you? I need to know what your self-concept is so I can now evaluate you. You know, are you a threat? Can you help me get what
Yeah.
I want? Are you a threat?
Yeah, that's
You
it.
know, that's how the ego works, isn't it?
Yeah.
What's in it for me? Okay, so let's check you out. Okay, so can I trust you? Are you going to be okay? Can I open up to you? Are you a friend? Are you enemy? Do I need to treat you with caution? That's all how the self-concept, the ego, evaluates things, isn't it?
Yeah.
So if someone's not giving you that, they're just this kind of pure awareness, then it's like I can't really fathom you. The ego can't process that. It can't frame it and define it and put it into, you know, a category. So it feels a bit insecure. It feels fearful of that. And then often in history, what happens is then it attacks. It goes, oh, well, then I project my own, even though there's actually nothing there. It just projects its own stuff onto that kind of blank canvas and goes, well, then you must be a threat. So therefore, attack is justified. And then it attacks this, you know, totally innocent awareness and goes, okay, well, now, you know, we're gonna attack you verbally, physically, and you know, we've seen that sadly in history. A lot of the mystics have been attacked, and in Yeshua's case, killed. You know, is murdered. Really for doing, you know, nothing in particular. I suppose you could argue, you know, he was a bit provocative going into the temple and doing that. Perhaps, you know, it wasn't, you know, that was maybe the catalyst. But you know, actually, it was more than that. They feared his presence. He was so different, and teaching such a different message. It's like they couldn't. This guy's got to go because he's too scary. You know, if everyone starts being like this, the world we know will stop. It will crumble, because that's the truth. It would. You know, all the belief systems and the structures that the ego mind has created, just they disappear. They crumble. And so there's a huge resistance.
I'm going to say on the temple thing in Disappearance of the Universe, it says that never happened. And if you think about it, it's so out of character with Jesus's teaching. It seems unlikely they did actually do it.
I mean, there's no, you know, it was recorded by I think 2 or 3 of the Gospels. So did they lie then? So that was all made up. I don't know.
Well, the Bible's been changed a lot over the years, hasn't it? So, and they all take who was the original. I think Mark was the original. Then the others were taken from there. So it's really just adapted versions of the same thing.
It's possible. Yeah. I mean, who knows? But if he did do it, I can understand why he did it, because he knew that if he did that, they would crucify him, and that was part of the plan. So it was like, I'm doing this, you know, there's a higher picture here.
Is that why he was crucified?
I think so, yeah. I mean, think about it. You go, this guy goes in, he rocks into this is the like headquarters, right? He goes into the headquarters, storms into the corporate headquarters effectively, and goes, right, so this won't do. We're going to turn the tables up, we're going to cause havoc, and really we're going to give people the idea that actually this whole business that you've been that's been going on and you've been making money from is actually not shouldn't be happening. So he messed with their business model big time. Well, you know, that's kind of taking it a bit too far, isn't it? The guys that, you know, the Sanhedrin could go, okay, if he's out in the provinces and he's teaching this stuff, you know, okay, you know, we don't like him, but we can kind of tolerate that. But he comes into our headquarters, the temple, and he does this publicly. So everyone starts speaking about it. And that's giving people ideas, isn't it? It's like spreading like now an idea of, well, maybe this shouldn't be happening. Maybe we shouldn't be paying our temple taxes. So it's now threatening their business model, and the priests would have lived off that, so their livelihoods. And that's when people go into defensive mode, don't they? I mean, so there's no absolute proof that that's why they did it, but like, if you just put yourself in their position, suddenly the guy's like become a big threat because he's just done this. Well, what you going to do? You're going to take him out, aren't you? The ego's response is going to be, right, take him out. That's it. He's crossed the line. And now we're going to, because we supposedly priests, we can't do this. So we're going to get the Romans to do our dirty work for us, which is what happened. Said, okay, they persuaded them to do it because they said he's going to give people ideas, and he's going to threaten the establishment. He's going to cause an uprising and threaten the Roman rule. And I don't think Pilate wanted to do it, but they persuaded him. And who knows, how that was done. Maybe there was money that changed hands. Who knows? It was all very egoic because they basically wanted this guy out. And then their fear was, well, he's predicted that he's going to come back. So whatever happens, he cannot resurrect. This is like the thing. He cannot come back, because then actually, he would prove that, he is the Son of God and he is the Messiah. And then, people would believe in him even more. So they were desperate to find the body. We're like, you've got to find a body because, we've got to prove that he did die. And of course he didn't. He came back, so they never found a body because he didn't die. So I think it was all by design. So, if that needed to happen, if he did that because that all needed to happen and the whole plan, then that's what he would have done, because it would have been part of the plan. So it wouldn't have been out of character. It just wouldn't have been understandable unless you understood the bigger picture. And the bigger picture was, well, without the crucifixion and the resurrection drama that happened, Yeshua's teaching would not have become the teaching that it did. It wouldn't have mushroomed into the religion, Christianity. There's now the biggest in the world. If that hadn't have happened, he would have been another Jewish teacher. There were many, like John the Baptist. His teaching would have maybe had a little footnote in history. There was this guy called Yeshua. He was a teacher, but so no big deal. He had a few disciples, never went anywhere. But it went somewhere because of the crucifixion, resurrection. Because he resurrected. So if he needed to do that in order to make that whole thing play out, then he would have done that, wouldn't it? Because that would have been his guidance from the Holy Spirit. So I think it did happen, and it happened for that reason. But who knows? There's no absolute proof because it's all recorded in history, and there's no there's just all we've got is the Gospels to go on. I don't think he was angry though. I think when he did it, he wasn't like, I'm really angry and I'm doing this out of a state of anger. I think he probably did it in a state of, okay, I'm just going to turn the tables over because that's what I'm asked to do. So, he could have done it in a state of complete peace and surrender, but he's doing the action because that's what the Holy Spirit's asked him to do. And then people would have interpreted it as though, he's really angry, but actually he's not.
Yeah, I can see that.
If you remember in the Matrix movie, there's a great visual demonstration. Remember the last scene where he's just been shot and he's resurrected, and then Smith comes at him and he's trying to punch him, and Neo's just totally, he's in that state that Sally describes. He's just like whatever, like you remember they did it really well. He's just like looking.
I haven't seen it. Yeah,
you haven't seen it, okay. So we'll see it next month when we're doing the course. But he's just totally in a transcendent state. So it's like, oh, are you trying to punch me? And he's blocking him, but it's like there's no fear, there's no like, oh, I'm engaged in this, and whereas before he was like fully in the conflict. Now he's just like whatever. But so he's gone above it, and so it was a good demonstration of, okay, even if someone's attacking you physically, you don't have to be in a defensive state. He's just doing what's necessary. He's blocking his punches, and then he just kicks him down the hallway. But no fear, no drama, no aggression. He's not angry with him. He's just blocking his punches because that's what one would do, I guess, if someone's trying to punch, But the mental state is above that, above the battleground, as Yeshua calls it. So it's possible to do anything in that state. And maybe Yeshua did it in that state. He wasn't aggressive, he wasn't angry, he just went, okay, I need to do this. This is part of the plan. To take it really to show that it's not right. What they're doing is incorrect, spiritually incorrect. They're making God into some kind of commercial, transactive, trying to bring the ego into the spirit and mixing these worlds and saying you can't do that. And so it's a teaching as well. In itself, there's a teaching there. Okay, this is God or Mammon. You must choose, but you cannot say you're serving God and then have that kind of thing going on in the house of God. It doesn't work. And there's a bigger plan that this would ultimately lead to his crucifixion and then the resurrection, and he it's indicated that he knew that was going to happen. He'd obviously been told that this was what was required, and he knew it well in advance. He was telling his disciples for months, maybe even years before, this is what's coming. He sort of knew that was his fate, his destiny. And accepted it, said, okay, well, if that's what I've got to do, then, not my will, but thy will be done. So possibly the greatest act of surrender ever in human history, to go do that, knowing what's going to happen. And he went, okay, that's what's necessary, then I'll go through this. I won't run away and save my skin. I'll go through the humiliation and the, maybe physical pain of this crucifixion, because that's what's required for the plan of the atonement. Imagine if he'd run away, and that night in the garden when they were coming to get him, he knew they were coming. Imagine if he'd run. He'd gone, okay, well, I'll take off to Judea, hide in the hills. He could have done that. He had time to get out of Jerusalem, but he just said, okay, I'll just I'll stay and I'll go through the process that needs to be gone through. Which, as enlightened as you are, I can't imagine it would have been pleasant. His body's still being, flogged and beaten and nails driven. I mean, don't know. Did he feel any of that? We don't know. Maybe he was so in his, checked out that he didn't, and he didn't experience physical pain. One doesn't know, but I can't imagine it would have been a picnic for anyone. So quite amazing, really. And because of that, because he did that 2,000 years ago, we are having this conversation now. That's the interesting thing. We're talking about it and we're studying his teachings, and none of that would have necessarily played out if he hadn't done what he did. So you can only go, wow, like thank you, thank you for all of it, for the life you led, for the crucifixion that you went through, resurrection, for now giving this course. It's like amazing that he cares so much. Although none of it's real, he's like, well, I know that you're stuck in hell. I know that your mind is yearning for freedom, and I have to take responsibility and help you to awaken. And hence the course and the teaching and all of it. So we're very fortunate, I think, to be living in this time with this teaching available to us, because it wasn't, before 1976 when it was published. This profound, it just wasn't available. There wasn't a course like this that existed with this depth and the the structure of it. It's very comprehensive with the theory, and then the workbook, which is the mind training exercises, and then the FAQs. I don't think anything had been as organized before in spiritual teachings. There's obviously other great teachings, the Bhagavad, some of the Vedas, Bhagavad Gita, and so on. But this is an organized, disciplined mind training course designed for the modern Western mind specifically, which he's given us to awaken us to the ultimate truth. It's pretty amazing, really. And it's come in our lifetime. So I don't think there's ever been a better time to awaken than now.
John,
Okay.
sorry, I need
You gotta
to
go. Okay.
Yes.
So I hope that answer
right.
satisfied you. It's quite a long one, but
Yeah.
it's very interesting to talk about this stuff. So
Yes. Yes.
keep practicing.
Thank you.
We'll speak soon.
Thank you.
All right.
Thanks, Rona. And bye, Jackie.
Namaste.
Bye, Sally.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Okay, so shall we have a look at today's lesson then? Lesson 334.
I'm just going to sort out this letter. But I leave as well, actually, because I've got something I need to do by tomorrow morning. So,
Okay. Well, thanks for joining. Sally, can you stay and do the lesson?
Yeah, if you don't mind me eating with you.
No problem at all.
I'll turn the camera off and eat quietly.
Okay. So you want to read today, I claim the gifts. And then the alternative.
Today I claim the gifts forgiveness gives. I accept the gifts letting go gives me today.
So there's acceptance, acceptance is, and you're actually accepting the gifts beyond the illusions. That's what it really means. You say, I accept something. Let's say something bad, seemingly bad has happened. You say, well, I accept it. You're not actually accepting the evil, the badness of it. You're actually accepting the truth that lies beyond it, aren't you? That's what it really means. Which means that you've let go of your misperception of the evil or the badness. So it's the same as letting go. So what are you accepting? So you're actually accepting these gifts that lie beyond the ego's illusions.
Yeah.
And there's a few lessons like this. He's saying you must accept these. If you don't accept them and you deny them, then they can't help you. They're there, but they're not there in your awareness because you've denied them. So you must, be open to accepting them, and you're open to accepting them when you let go. If you don't let go, then you're saying, I don't want these gifts, and I'm denying them. So the catalyst for all of it is I choose to let it go. Simple decision. I choose to let it go. That allows me to accept these gifts, to accept love, peace, and joy back into my mind, and all the great benefits that the Spirit brings. But if I don't let go, then I deny that. I deny that I'm worthy of those gifts. That's what you're saying. I'm not worthy of these gifts. So I prefer to stay in my separated self-concept, which doesn't believe that these gifts are even there necessarily. Right.
Yeah, I think I had a moment where one evening I decided to let go completely and let go of ego and the separate self, but I decided to do it wholly and completely. When I think maybe a lot of people wouldn't want to do that. They've got their families, their children, their whatever, and they can't. They want to change, but not that much. They don't want to let go of their present life. So I can see why it's difficult to let go.
Oh, I mean, I don't know if you listened to that Abraham Maslow video that I sent, but the guy was commenting, was saying, well, transcendence is the collapse of the, transcending the personal self. But we don't need to go that far. It could just be a simple mindfulness practice or meditation, or, so that actually you do need to go that far. If you really want to get to that transcendent level, you have to collapse the separate self. There's no fudging it. Those practices, are part of doing that. But it's almost like, okay, well, that's a bit radical. So we won't go there. We'll just do a bit of mindfulness, a bit of meditation. We'll feel a bit better. But actually, you've got to go the whole way.
You've got to be willing to go all the way, haven't you?
Yeah, you do. Yeah, absolutely. If you're not willing, then you're going to stay here. Then what are you willing for? You're willing for the ego then. The ego is willing for you, and it's the ego is saying, well, no, you don't really want to do that. You're much better off as a separate self, living as a human, and try and make this life work. And there's no, you can't if you see it in coarse terms, you can't really fudge that equation. It's like you're either going to choose to leave entirely, leave this world, leave the separate self behind, and transcend, go into another reality entirely, or you stay here. There's no in between. You can't sort of be half there and half not there. I mean, as you're awakening, you have these, like you had an experience where you're kind of in a body, but you weren't really in. So but that's just part of the experience of awakening. It's not your ultimate state. Maybe you could see from that experience, you must choose. You can't be in both states of mind simultaneously.
No.
So perception and knowledge contradict each other. You must choose which one you want. And that cannot be a half-hearted choice. Oh, well, I want knowledge, but not quite. I'll keep some perception going because I quite like. I mean, then you've denied knowledge in doing that. You see, any half-assed, half-baked attempt at it is actually denying the truth, which is what he's saying to us. He's saying, look, you're going to do this. This course will be accepted entirely or not at all. He says that. So you're either going to go the whole way or not at all. In practice, it's a process to go the whole way. You're not going to go the whole way when you start necessarily. Nothing I see means anything. If you really accepted that fully, you went the whole way with that, you'd be enlightened. That would be it. You could close the book at lesson 1. Nothing I see means anything. Okay, I fully get that, fully accept it. Okay, no need for further practice. I'm done.
For me, it was like there's nothing to lose by going for it wholeheartedly.
Well, I think that's key, because if you think there's something to lose, then you're valuing an illusion, and then you won't go for it wholeheartedly. You say, well, I could lose something that's of value to me. So that's why he's continuously telling us, don't value what is valueless. Don't value an illusion, which isn't true. You got to let go of all illusions entirely, which is what he's saying here. I mean, it leads us perfectly into paragraph 1, really, because he's just reiterating that. Do you want to read that?
The original.
Yeah, I'll read the original and then the alternative, and we'll just unpack it line by line in the alternative.
I will not wait another day to find the treasures that my Father offers me. Illusions are all vain, and dreams are gone, even while they are woven out of thoughts that rest on false perceptions. Let me not accept such meager gifts again today. God's voice is offering the peace of God to all who hear and choose to follow him. This is my choice today, and so I go to find the treasures God has given me. Okay, alternatively, I will not wait another day to find the treasures that my source offers me.
Okay, so that's a statement of intent. He's saying, right now, and I'm not going to
do it now.
Now, today.
Not next week, not next month.
Next week, yeah. I'm going to accept enlightenment now. It's not going to happen sometime in the future. These treasures are there now. So it's quite a firm statement of intent, saying I'm not going to delay, because delay is obviously of time and is of the ego. Only the ego could delay because it believes in time. Time is in fact only there because it's a delaying mechanism. It's delaying you from accepting the truth now, isn't it? That's why time is there. If you accepted the truth now, there's no need for time.
Say that again. I've got to write it down. Time is a delay to the truth.
It's a delaying tactic. If you accepted the truth now, there's no need for time, is there?
No.
Time is only needed because you don't accept the truth now, and so you accept something else, and then that something else is what's now running your mind, and it plays itself out in time. You seem to need time to project the ego out and experience the dreams, and all it's doing is perpetuating the self-concept, the false self-concept, and denying the truth. So time denies the truth of eternity, doesn't it? There's only the eternal now, then time is clearly an illusion. It's not there. So it's the ego's delaying maneuver. Okay, well, you need time to be enlightened. Do you really? In practice, we work at it, and you could go, okay, on a practical level, it makes sense to work at it, but again, that can become problematic if you keep going. Well, I'm just working at it. I'm kind of getting there always, and you never arrive. Then you never arrive, and you keep working at it and never getting there.
Yeah, there's nowhere to go. It's here.
And that can be the case, for even seemingly dedicated spiritual teachers and gurus, and they're always seeking it and never arriving, because the mind is always seeking. Whereas I think if you just practice and you say, okay, I'm just going to be present, I'm going to do these lessons, and right now I'm going to let go. I'm going to let go of whatever's arising, whatever blocks there are. I'm not projecting to the future and saying my enlightenment's going to come, when. You don't do any of that. You're just like very present in your practice always. Then you avoid that trap. And then, when you're ready, an experience just comes, as it did for you. It's like, okay, there it is. Because you hadn't set up a timeline, gone, oh, well, maybe I need to do this for another 5 years before I get there. Whatever. A lot of people have all kinds of false beliefs. Well, one day I'll get to enlightenment. It's going to be really hard and tough, and I've got to do hours and hours of meditation, or maybe many lifetimes. Some of the teachings, like the Buddhists, and they say you've got to have, like, when you get to the advanced stage, and you've only got 7 lifetimes to go. I mean, talk about delay. Only another 7 lifetimes of, like, if each one's going to last an average of 80 years. My goodness, you've just delayed it by like 500, 600 years. Extraordinary. But this is the kind of thing that goes on with the ego, and then that's unquestioned. I mean, I was listening to this that happened in a talk by he seemed to be quite a knowledgeable guy, talking about Theravada Buddhism, and he said it as though it was fact. But you see, that's the danger of dogma. So he's been taught that someone's at some point conceived that. Who knows? Maybe someone in a long time ago wrote it down, and then it somehow becomes accepted as true. Oh, it's going to take 7 lifetimes once you're at this state. Who says? And even the Buddha said, look, you've got to question everything. Enlightenment requires that you question every single belief and value that you have. And Yeshua says the same thing. This course requires that you question every value that you have, and not accept anything on face value. Is this really true? Can I know that it's really true? I mean, that's why Byron Katie's work works. Because the first 2 questions are, can you know it's true? And then let's do it again. Can you absolutely know that this is true? And the answer is you can't. The only thing you can absolutely know is true is pure formless awareness of perfect love. That's the only thing you cannot doubt. Everything else in the domain of perception is open to question and doubt, isn't it?
Yeah.
So can you absolutely know that time is true? No, you can't. Can you absolutely know that anything in this world is true? No. What you see and touch and feel, can you absolutely know that that's there? No, you can't, if you're honest with yourself. Maybe it's all a setup. Maybe you're just hallucinating. And in fact, that is actually, that is actually what's happening. Just a vast hallucination that's very convincing. The mind has tricked itself big time. And the antidote to it is this non-dual truth. He's just teaching us, giving it to us straight. Illusions are all vain, dreams are gone, even while they are woven out of thoughts that rest on false perceptions. So even while the ego is busy, is what he's saying, weaving these illusions in your mind, dreams are gone. They don't exist, even while the ego is busy in its miscreation. So at any point you can just realize that, and that awakens you from the dream.
Okay, number 2.
Yep.
Illusions are all vain and dreams are gone, even while they are woven out of thoughts that rest on false perceptions. Yeah.
So even while all that's happening, they're still non-existent, is what he's saying.
Mm,
They're
Okay.
still gone. And at any point, you could just stop the weaving process and just realize that. Just go, no, actually, none of this is true.
mm,
And there are instances of like where people have that kind of experience. They just go, no, actually, that no, it's not happening anymore. And they just have a sudden change of mind.
yeah.
Eckhart Tolle's experience, Byron Katie, just no, suddenly actually I've been weaving these illusions, and then just something stops my mind, and I just realize that's all illusion.
Like when I was out for a dog walk the other night and it was pouring with rain, and I didn't want a dog walk in rain, so I went, it's not true, still not true. And I got out the car and it wasn't wet and it wasn't muddy and it was all different.
Hmm.
I like that phrase you said, it's not true, still not true. That worked well.
Hmm. Yeah, well, like anything that's denying the illusion, that's all. It's so simple, really. It's just not true, and it's still not true. And it doesn't matter what the ego's doing; it's still not true. And if you can hold to that, when you're tempted not to, and you're tempted to believe in the dream, then you have the way out, because nothing will tempt you to abandon the truth. It has to be like a consistent denial. You have to be as strong in your ability to deny the truth as the ego is in its ability to weave illusions. Stronger, actually. Stronger than the ego's biggest temptation to believe in its story. Your forgiveness or letting go has to be stronger. Okay, so number 3, let me not accept
such meager gifts again today. Carry on. Perfect love's voice is offering the peace of pure formless awareness to all who hear and choose to follow it. And this is my choice today and every day. Every moment of every day. And so I go to find the treasures of pure formless awareness perfect love has given me. Given me, or I am.
Well, you can change that to so, and so I, instead of I go to, you could say, and so I find. There's no sense of, remember, he's meeting us where we are. We think we're separated from it. So I understand why he's saying go to, but
yeah.
But actually it's unnecessary. And so I find the treasures her formless awareness of perfect love has given me. And it's always given it to me. It's not like a recent occurrence. These are given to me. They've been given to me for all time and beyond time, in eternity. Always given to me, but I haven't accepted them. That's the problem. That's the only problem. I don't accept them. So if I don't accept them, then I don't receive them. And I think they haven't been given to me. I think God's abandoned me. You can see how it all works, don't you? So I must accept them back. And that's the true meaning of acceptance. I must accept these gifts back into my mind. And I do that when I deny illusion. So letting go and acceptance are exactly the same thing. But letting go is the process of coming to the acceptance of these gifts, isn't it? without the letting go, then you remain in an illusory state, with the false ideas still in your mind, and you haven't then accepted these gifts. You've denied them. So it's so simple. He's just saying one thing you got to do: let go of your illusions, all your false beliefs, and then you accept. By doing that, you automatically have accepted the truth. And some people are trying to accept the truth, and they go, and I accept all of this, but they don't understand how to get there. They need to. There's a process. It's to let go of everything that blocks that awareness of the truth. And that's what all this is all about. The whole course is directed at finding those blocks, being aware of them, and then being able to let them go. And so I find the treasures, pure formless awareness of perfect love is given me. Right now, today, in this moment.
Sounds good.
Okay, next one. I think try reading sentence by sentence this time, and then so read the first sentence in the original, and then read the alternative down below.
Okay, that's not complicated at all. I seek but the eternal. I choose only the eternal. Yeah, choose is
just
better
getting
than
rid of
seeking.
the seeking. It's like, okay, let's just choose it. I choose only the eternal today.
Yeah,
And you choose the eternal. People say, well, how do I choose the eternal when I'm in time? Well, you choose the eternal by being in the present moment. That's how you choose the eternal. Because the present moment is the closest approximation of eternity in this world. So that's why, being present, being in the now, is pretty fundamental to every spiritual teaching. Because it's like, well, that's how you choose the eternal in this world.
Okay, number 2. For your son can be content with nothing less than this. Alternatively, for your extension can be content with nothing less than this. Yeah, eternal. That's the aim. Yeah. Okay. Number 3. What then can his solace, but what you are offering to his bewildered mind and frightened heart to give him certainty and bring him peace? Alternatively, what then can be my solace, except what you are offering to my bewildered mind and frightened heart to give me certainty and bring me peace? That's a lot better.
We try and solace into comfort, maybe. What do you think?
Yeah, that's
Kind
better.
of old-fashioned word. Solace means comfort. What then can be my comfort except what you are offering my bewildered mind and frightened heart to give me certainty and bring me peace?
Yeah, that's good. And then number 4, original one. Today I would behold my brother sinless. And the alternative, today I choose to perceive my companion as innocent. Yeah, I had an opportunity to practice that a few minutes ago. Somebody had left me a not pleasant review for my Airbnb flat. And told real porkies about what had happened. And so I just replied that wasn't true. And and let it go. It's funny, isn't it, how you get these opportunities?
Yeah, well, that's how it works in the dream world. So the ego is always trying to convince you that it's real, and that sin and guilt are justified. And you have to say no. That's not the case. None of it's true. That person is still innocent. You're innocent. Nothing's ever happened. Because as soon as you acknowledge that it's happened, you make the dream real, and you make the ego real. That's how it works. So you respond in anger to that, then you made the situation real.
Yeah.
Made the sin and the guilt real, and you made the ego's thought system real, and of course that's what it wants.
Mm.
So you can still respond, but you respond from, the higher place. Okay, I'm not going to get mentally and emotionally engaged in this.
Mm.
And that takes a lot of practice and a lot of mental discipline, doesn't it? To be able to consistently apply this in this world.
Luckily, we get lots of practice, don't we?
Yeah, well, I mean, exactly. If you fail once, you'll get more opportunities. You can be
Mm. But I'm feeling much more positive about it. Whenever something comes up,
okay.
I don't feel like it's gone wrong. I just think, oh, another opportunity to practice. Great.
Yeah, just another. Gary Renard says just another forgiveness opportunity.
Mm.
FO. It's quite a nice thing to remember. Or just another letting go opportunity. JALGO could be the acronym. Just another letting go opportunity, which is how I get home. You see? So now, okay, that's good because I've got another opportunity to practice the skill of letting go, and if I do that successfully, then take another step towards home. So this is how I advance in my path. I advance by practice, and the practice means I need opportunities to practice, which are apparently difficult.
Mm.
So then you welcome it. You're like, okay, well, this is how I'm going to escape. These so-called challenges are exactly what I need to correct my mind and experience. For so I experience my own innocence, and your awareness comes to me.
And then it makes me feel grateful to the person that gave practice moment.
Yeah, I mean, it's totally a different way of thinking about it, isn't it?
Mm.
Gratitude just turns it around. You go, oh, actually, that's very useful. You give me an opportunity to practice, to undo my own ego. So thank you. And if you're really genuine in that, then you've genuinely done radical forgiveness, and you've let go of the ego in that situation. If you can genuinely feel grateful. Well, that's a profound change of mind for most people. It's a huge accomplishment, just to feel grateful for the things that have hurt you is a complete reversal of the ego's thought system.
Mm.
To really feel it, going beyond intellectually, you can intellectually accept the idea, but then you still feel the resentment. If you can really just feel grateful genuinely for whatever's happened, even the most painful things, then that is the test. Then you've really forgiven it. You've really let it go.
Mm.
And if there's still a little bit of resentment, then you haven't fully let it go.
Okay, number 5. This your will for me, for so will I behold my sinlessness. Or alternatively, for so I experience my own innocence, so your awareness comes to me. So much better.
I experience my own innocence. Your awareness comes to me.
Mm.
So you can only experience your own innocence if you experience everyone else's innocence. It's obvious. If someone else is guilty, then you must be guilty too.
You say it's obvious, but it's not, is it?
Well, it should be obvious, because it's like, well, obviously, that idea of guilt. Then someone is sinful and guilty. That applies to you as well. You're just trying to project it onto the other person and get rid of it yourself.
Mm.
But you can't do that. If you believe in guilt, then that applies to you as well. You must believe you guilty. The sin and guilt are either true or not. So it either applies to everyone, including you, or it applies to no one, including you. Those are the choices.
Yeah.
And the egos just try to confuse us and say, well, you can judge someone as guilty and get away yourself. You're not guilty, they're guilty. and somehow that works. He's just saying you can't do that, because if you believe in guilt, then you believe that you're guilty and you're sinful, and it's the only way to do this is it's got to be complete. You're innocent and they are innocent and everyone's innocent, or the reverse is true. You're sinful and guilty, and so is everyone else. Those are the choices. No in between. If you state it in those terms, again, it becomes, would you really want sin and guilt to be real?
No.
Given their effects, would you actually choose? Would you want those to be the truth?
No.
That's what the ego is saying.
Mm.
Extraordinary, really. We're addicted to this sinful, guilty misperception that creates hell on earth, and we want it. We choose it over and over and over again.
Mm.
Every time we judge, every time we condemn someone or something. Extraordinary, really.
Mm.
Just how delusional one can be, but that's what we're in. We're in a delusional system, thought system.
Yeah.
Which can only be healed by this uncompromising, non-dual approach, saying, well, it's one or the other. You must choose. Can't have a little bit of guilt and a little bit of sin. I'm innocent except for that. It's complete. It's one or the other. I'm either totally innocent or I'm totally guilty. And the ego knows this, which is why it will fight its corner, and it'll try and get you to hold on to guilt and sin for dear life, because that is its life. Without guilt and sin, the ego has no existence.
Mm.
Okay, so any other thoughts on the lesson?
No, I think I'm going to leave the call now. I know you've probably got plans to do some more, but I need a bit of
Well,
time.
there's we can always do more. There's a song of prayer, but what I've realized is at some point you got to stop, because otherwise you can just go on and on and on. So I think your suggestion of doing a 2-year cycle, you do the focus on the one. We've done the lesson thoroughly and well, and we've done the original teaching. We've discussed. If you get, that was an hour discussion on Kim's question, but that's very interesting. It's all it's stuff that you can't necessarily read. And then next year we'll dive into the text, and we'll go, okay, let's that's the focus of the session. Let's do the text, and we'll leave everything else, and then you've got those recordings. So it's a 2-year, because I was trying to squeeze it into 1 year, and then you got to do 2 sessions a day, and that's even for me,
that's not humanly possible.
Well, it was just, but I was doing last year. I remember when Sue and John were joining twice a day. It was like every day was a Course in Miracles marathon, because I was doing 2 sessions a day, which was anything from 5 to 7 hours. And then I still had to do all the work to prepare the emails, and so I was doing like 11, 12 hours of and could get nothing else done. It was quite, I guess that was what I needed to do for that time. But
yeah, it's really immersive. That's really immersive.
Seriously immersive. Yeah, it was like walking, eating, breathing, sleeping, this thing. Or not sleeping a lot of the time, because I was just like working. But it's got to be sustainable for me as well as everyone else, and doable. So we do 1 session a day, and that's the way I'm going to do the course as well coming up. In past years I did 2 sessions a day, but it just becomes too much. I just that 6 weeks I cannot do anything else if I'm doing 2 sessions a day. So 1 session a day. There's recordings as well, and then we'll focus on the we'll do more of a focus on the text in this course.
Look forward to it.
Yeah, I know it's going to be great. So keep spreading the word if you know anyone who's interested, and if you can post something on the spiritual meetup group.
Yeah.
Maybe I don't know how long in advance. It's next Wednesday, so I don't know when the optimum time to do it is, but
When I get time to do it, I think.
yeah, whenever, yeah,
Yeah.
whenever. Maybe I think I can still log in. I'm not sure. I haven't really.
Yeah, I made you co-host, so you should be able to.
Yeah. So I actually I want to change the actual funnel, the lead page as well. But again, when I get time to do that. So we'll just do what we can and trust in divine providence. It's all gonna happen as it should do.
Yeah.
Okay. So tomorrow, Sally, can we do a either sort of 12:30 or a bit later, like 2:30? What suits you?
Both of them a bit tricky, but I can do either. You just choose the time that's right for you, and I'll work around it. I've got a client until we'll probably run over at 12:30, so I probably won't be dead on 12:30.
Okay. So should we make it 2:30? 2:30?
Yeah, you can do if you want to. Yeah.
Yeah, I need to be somewhere in the evening at 5, so I can't do this time. And I need to do a dog walk in the morning. So 2:30 sort of could work. 2:30 till like 4:30.
Yeah, and I have to do a dog walk in the middle of that one.
But
if somebody else is on the call, it's fine, isn't it?
Well, what about 1:30?
1:30 to 3:30 would work for me.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, that works better.
Yeah. All right. So let's do 1:30. I'll send it out tonight and
let people know in advance. Yeah.
Yeah. You can let your
my crowd
right there. Yes.
Yeah, I'll let the crowd know.
All right.
All right then. I'll see you tomorrow at 1:30.
Yeah. All right.
See you then. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Okay. Namaste. All right. So that brings us to the end of the session. If you want to join the next live session, it's at 1:30 tomorrow. That's Friday. That's UK time, or 3:30 p.m. South African time. So I hope to see you then, and wishing you much love, peace, and joy. Namaste. Which means that loving self in me, loving peaceful, joyful self in me acknowledges and honors that same self in you.